Hello and welcome. I'm Sima Katauka and you're watching Gulf Today on NewsX. Well, let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. Top officials from Egypt, Qatar and Turkey have met to strengthen the Gaza ceasefire and address obstacles to implementing the second phase. Despite the October 10th ceasefire, Israeli attacks have killed 345 Palestinians and injured 889 people since October 11th, pushing the total death toll since 2023 to 69,775 people, according to Gaza's health ministry. Syrian Defense Minister Murhaf Abu Qasra has held bilateral talks with Pakistan's Ambassador Mughis Afzal to discuss expanding bilateral military cooperation. Both sides have focused on boosting their air capabilities and training programs, signaling a move to strengthen defense ties between the two nations. Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara has met with a U.S. congressional delegation led by Darin Lahoud to discuss strengthening bilateral cooperation and exchanging views on key international issues. They also talked about attended by Syrian Foreign Minister Assad Hassan al-Shaibani has emphasized ongoing communication to advance mutual interests. Jordan and Syria have agreed to reopen import-export channels in early 2026. The move praised by officials as a major development that will boost trade and strengthen both public and private sectors. The deal reached in Damascus by both countries' ministers is expected to streamline customs, revive the free trade zone. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has said that Ankara sees joint major reconstruction opportunities with South Korea, including in Syria, Gaza. This comes as South Korean President Lee Jae-myung is visiting Ankara. Both leaders stressed their shared position on Gaza, support for two-state solution, and a commitment to expand their strategic partnership. Syria's Interior Ministry has condemned an attack by outlawed groups on a security checkpoint in western Sweden, which killed one officer and wounded two others, saying security forces returned fire and caused casualties among the assailants. The ministry said the attack was aimed at destabilizing Sweden governorate and is disrupting civilian lives. Israel has said that the Red Cross has transferred a coffin containing human remains believed to be of an Israeli captive in Gaza, with testifying underway at Tel Aviv's National Center of Forensic Medicine to confirm whether the remains belong to one of three deceased hostages still held in Gaza, as a fragile ceasefire persists amid ongoing Israeli attacks. The death toll from the Thailand floods have now risen to 33, and over hundreds of patients are reportedly stuck in the hospital as the conditions worsen in the region and the armed forces continue the rescue operation in parts of Thailand. Now we start with the Middle East. According to a Turkish official, Turkey, Egypt and Qatar are moving forward with discussions on the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire deal. Turkey's intelligence chief recently met with Egypt's counterpart and Qatar's foreign minister in Cairo to review progress and strengthen efforts in coordination with the United States. The three officials agreed to enhance their collaboration through the Civil Military Coordination Center to ensure the continuity of the ceasefire, addressing any obstacles that may arise. The meeting also focused on countering violations of the ceasefire agreement, particularly addressing Israeli actions in the region. These talks come as efforts continue to stabilize the situation in Gaza and prevent further escalations. Now for this discussion, we welcome Daniela Bloom. She's a political commentator, joins us live from San Francisco. Thank you very much for joining us again. Good to see you, Daniela. Now, looking at this, how do you think, or how do you analyze the situation? Do you think that Gaza and Israel are ready to move to phase 2 of ceasefire as talks continue despite the situation on the ground?
I don't think they're anywhere near ready to move forward. As long as Hamas is not demilitarized, nothing can move forward. And Egypt, Turkey, and Qatar do want Hamas to get with the program, but the pressure they're putting on Hamas is all on paper. It's Israel who has to suffer the consequences. And we've already seen with Israel withdrawing from the yellow line, Hamas is already regrouping. And Israel cannot afford them to regroup.
And how do you think, how might this joint involvement of these three countries, right, particularly Turkey, Egypt, and Qatar, as you also mentioned alongside the United States, how do you think this shifts the balance of diplomatic influence? And although you also emphasize that, they are not ready to move forward and Israel will bear the consequences, what do you think they are bringing to the table?
So it is nice to have other, I don't know if they were all allies, but there's mutual interests on the table now, along with the United States. Egypt wants security, Qatar wants leverage, and Turkey wants influence. They all have different reasons for wanting Hamas to step in line. But unfortunately, talk is cheap. They need to do more to ensure that Hamas absolutely demilitarizes. Hamas must give up its weapons. They must allow for an international force to take over. This is what's best for the Palestinian people as well. Islamic fundamentalism is a friend to no one.
Yes. And as you rightfully mentioned, that Hamas must be demilitarized, but we don't see that being enforced. What do you think, what are the challenges to enforce Hamas into demilitarization?
It is a challenge. You can't kill an ideology, but you can definitely weaken its stronghold. And if Egypt and Qatar and Turkey are not willing to get physically involved, then it leaves Israel no choice but to protect its country. Israel has a right to exist. It has a right to protect and ensure that its citizens are safe. And I want to remind the audiences that these are not just Jewish citizens. There's 2 million Arabs living in Israel, along with Christians and every other religion. And Israel needs to do what it needs to do. And unfortunately, Hamas has shown that they are not abiding by the original peace plan that Trump and his company have worked so hard to implement. They are not being in good faith, although I am very pleased to see that almost all the deceased hostages' remains have been returned, and that is a relief for the people of Israel.
Yes, and even not just demilitarizing Hamas, but other challenges are still arising in enforcing this ceasefire compliance. What do you think about these challenges? How do you think these are affecting broader regional stability there?
Yes, the new concern now is in the northern parts of the West Bank. Iran is finding ways to empower and give weapons to and create terrorist concerns in these areas where Israel has already had to go in and preemptively do some counter-terrorist operations. Unfortunately, Israel is a tiny country surrounded by a lot of extremists who don't want it to exist. And we do hope that Egypt, Qatar, all of them come to the table with actual answers, not just talking, because this is not something Israel can do on its own. If it has to, it will, but it will be far more effective if these allies can actually show by action, not just by words, that they really want to see Hamas demilitarized.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for emphasizing that and giving us the backstory. Thank you very much. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now we stay in the region. Security officials have warned in cabinet ministers that Hamas has asserted almost total control over parts of Gaza. It rules, according to reports do suggest that Ministers were told that 13 out of 25 Hamas-controlled municipalities have resumed full operations. Police are again manning checkpoints, and the terror group is working to repair damaged infrastructure and improve its image among Palestinians. Reports also says that senior IDF officers are suggested to develop its own plans to demilitarize Gaza, saying the U.S. proposal for doing so is insufficient. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Daniela Bloom. She's a political commentator, joins us live from San Francisco. Thank you very much, Daniela, for staying with us. Now, looking at this, as we were discussing, there's so many challenges, not just the demilitarization. How can Israel, or how should Israel balance its security objectives with, U.S. proposals, U.S. plans for demilitarizing Gaza, which is, of course, slow. And what does the reported IDF push for alternative plans? How do you think this is suggesting about the differing strategies of these two countries?
Well, as the saying goes, it's very difficult to negotiate with terrorists. They are not true partners in peace. They are strategizing. They have an ideology that trumps Western values. And I think Trump and his wonderful team knew this, but they also knew that the propaganda war online was really causing a lot of damage to Israel as well. The hostages needed to come home. And I do think that this pause has been relieving to many, but there is a naivety to think that Hamas will just do what it said it was going to do when its ideology is so strong, it's so ingrained, and it has ingrained many innocent children as the next generations. So it is going to take a group effort. And again, everyone benefits when there's stabilization in the region. When you focus on capitalism and free markets, the Abraham Accords have been a blessing to many, many countries. There are many advantages to joining the Abraham Accords, and we hope that wave continues.
And Daniela, do you think there's also differences of strategy and opinion between U.S. and Israel? As you know, demilitarizing Hamas is utmost priority for Israel, but U.S. is allowing other countries to move forward with phase 2 discussions.
I think, Israel is right on the front lines of enemies who want to kill them. The U.S. is across the pond on the other side of the world. And the U.S. understands that Israel is their ally, and a strong Israel is putting America first. So I do believe that at the end of the day, Israel really is the one who should rightfully call the shots in terms of how their borders are going to best be protected. And it does help, again, that the U.S. has enlisted the help of Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey to put pressure on Hamas. Trump has brought the Abraham Accords. There is merit to them. All three countries want to stay under the graces of the U.S., specifically under President Trump, because the Middle East does not speak diplomacy. It speaks deterrence. It speaks leverage. This is Trump's language, and it's working, and we are grateful.
Right. Thank you very much, Daniela Bloom, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, heavy rains have significantly worsened the humanitarian crisis for displaced Gazans who are facing increased hardship, health risks, and further damage to their temporary shelters. The already dire situation in Gaza's crowded displacement camps has been exacerbated by flooding, strong winds, and cold weather. The first stage of the ceasefire agreement, which called for an Israeli partial withdrawal and the return of hostages held by Hamas, is close to completion. The next stage, which received a boost following the endorsement of Trump's plan by the UN Security Council, calls for the creation of a committee of Palestinian technocrats to run Gaza under the ultimate authority of the president. It also includes the deployment of an international stabilization force. Let's listen into what the Gazans have shared about the worsening situation.
هذا الوضع في الشتاء غرقنا خيمتي كلها صارت مية وهبطت كلها من شدة الأمطار الأمطار غزيرة والخيمة كلها ساحة، يعني كلها مطرة، الفراش غرق وهيني حاطة طناجر يعني وش في عندي أواني بحط عشان المية هذه اللي غرقت.
أنا بدي أعيش، أنا بني آدم تعبت من المعيشة هذه، أنا كل الليل أنا وزوجتي زي ما أنت جيت علي وشفت بعينك، شايف المية تصورني خلي يشوف. أنا تبهدلت سجادة مية، فراشي مية، حالة مية، متبهدل.
هاي المية دخلت علينا وعلى الكل، يعني كل المخيم غرق. واحنا غرقت خيمة بنتي فكل فراش اندفن في الأرض، فبحرنا شوية وطلعنا.
عشان الصيف بتضلها دبان وشوب وغير هيك فيش فراش الأولاد على الأرض بتناموا، بصحوا من الفجر ما بيصدقوا النهار يطلع ويروحوا على البحر من شدة الشوب والحرارة، بصحوا يقولوا لهم ماما بدنا ناكل، ايش في أكل؟ مش عارفين ايش نعمل، زهقنا من الليل، هاي شوف كيف الفراش ما فيش يعني منفس، كله شوب، كل احنا قاعدين في وادي غير صالح للسكن. هذا طفل ايش ذنبه ينقطع من الحليب؟ ايش ذنبه يعيش العيشه هيك؟ عيشه انه طفل لسه عمره 4 شهور ويصير عنده سوء تغذيه. يعني مين ما شاف الولد بيحكي لي قد ايه عمره، كم عمره، بيحزن عليه. انه يصير حلول لانه سنتين يعني ايش بحكي لك، اللي استشهد اللي مات هو اللي ارتاح، احنا كل يوم بنموت.
Now we stay in the region. Israeli forces, including the IDF, Shin Bet, and border police, have launched a broader counter-terrorism operation in the northern West Bank. The IDF and Shin Bet said they will not allow terrorism to take root in the area and are acting proactively towards it. And the announcement comes after days of heightened Israel security activity in the West Bank, particularly in the northern region. Officials emphasize that the wide-scale operation is part of ongoing efforts to prevent terror from becoming established. Now we welcome back Daniela Bloom. She's a political commentator, joins us live from San Francisco. Thank you very much, Daniela, for staying with us. Now, as you rightfully mentioned that, Israel should call the shots here, which Israel is doing. To what extent do you think these proactive counterterrorism measures enhance long-term stability between Gazans and Israel?
It's really unfortunate. If they chose peace and coexistence, we wouldn't have to keep going through this. Leave the Jews alone, leave Israel alone, and you will be left alone. But unfortunately, with the Shin Bet intelligence, there was enough concern and terrorism activities that the Israeli IDF had to be preemptive. They're not going to wait for another October 7th, which is their right. And it's unfortunate, that Iran keeps finding ways to embolden these terrorists. It's not easy, but Israel will do what it needs to do.
Yes, and you as you were mentioning earlier on our discussion that changing the situation completely is challenging, but weakening Hamas is more possible or attainable. How do you think these kind of counterterrorism measures, operations risk further escalating tensions or fueling local resentment? And what should Israel do moving forward?
It's very tough because a lot of people from Western countries try to apply Western logic. Oh, give them rights. They just want equal rights. It's not that at all. You can't negotiate with people who do not believe in your right to exist. It's very frustrating, and I wish there was, for all of, the problem with Israel is that they are not indiscriminate. They try to be as moral and as specific as possible with their targets. And unfortunately, though, because of how propaganda is, and there's a lot more people, there's a lot more Muslims in this world than Jews, the story and script is often flipped. But no one hears the stories of the soldiers who've risked their lives and limbs in warning citizens in Gaza or the West Bank that there's going to be attacks. They want to see minimal casualties.
Yes.
But they also have a right to protect their citizens. So it's a delicate balance that they walk every day. They're darned if they do, they're darned if they don't. But Israel will still continue to stand tall and fight for its right to be in their homeland.
With that, I would like to thank Daniela Bloom for joining us as a political commentator from San Francisco. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Syria. Syrian Defense Minister Major General Pakistani Major General Murhaf Abu Qasra held a meeting with the ambassador of Pakistan to Syria, Air Chief Marshal Mughis Afzal, to discuss expanding military cooperation. According to the Ministry of Defense's Telegram channel, the talks focused on strengthening collaboration on air capabilities and military personnel training programs. The two sides expressed a commitment to broadening the scope of military ties between Syria and Pakistan, aiming to enhance both nations' defense capabilities. This meeting signals further efforts to deepen bilateral military relations with an emphasis on air defense and personnel development. Now for this discussion, we welcome Shruti Dasgupta. She's an international affairs expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Shruti, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, when I saw this news, I was very surprised. What do you think, what political motivations might be driving Syria and Pakistan to deepen their bilateral ties, especially defense ties?
Greetings, Asuma. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you.
What I do understand is that this is not new. Even under the Assad regime, Syria and Pakistan had defense ties, defense exercises, cooperation at various levels of governance. And in the recent days, ever since the Al-Qaeda offshoot HTS now supposedly cut off wanted ISIS man Al-Shara has been placed on the throne of Syria, Pakistan has continually extended global support to the regime, and they have recently supported lifting of sanctions against Syria to ensure that all sections of the economy are open and development is open to Syria in terms of trade, marketing, as well as cooperation. And so this is just the next natural step, that they want to have defense cooperations amongst themselves bilaterally. And it's not new. It's something that Pakistan has done with Syria while it was under Assad regime. In fact, they have supported Syria even when it was facing sanctions because it was under Assad regime. So it's not new for them. This cooperation, it comes under their broader brand of Ummah cooperation, Islamic cooperation, Islamic nations standing together stance. But what does seem funny to me now is that there's been a 27th Amendment to Pakistan's constitution, which has by all rights turned Asim Munir as the uncrowned king of Pakistan. That is my understanding of that amendment. And so one king met another, or at least the ambassadors of those two kings met each other and decided to cooperate. Both want to claim that they are suffering from the violence of sectarian sections. But what is the reality is both of them are committing crimes against humanity, against the own people of that nation, whether it is the Alawites or Druze in Syria, or whether it is the Baluchis in Pakistan. So it is a cooperation amongst two people that are not entirely aimed to making the better of their nation or humanity, but they are Trump's favorites at the moment. So they have the Western support system, and they are joining hands and shaking and tapping each other on the shoulder and presenting each other as the best course to take international relations forward.
Very interesting. And Shruti, how do you think these relations is? I didn't know, but you mentioned that this has been going even from Assad's regime time. How is this influencing their relationship with major powers like US, Russia, or China?
It doesn't change anything for Pakistan. They have a very firm all-weather friend in China, so it doesn't impact them at all. With Russia, Russia is a little too busy right now. We're dealing with its European problem, and they're watching and waiting in how Pakistan and the Afghanistan situation flows. Because as of now, what I do know is that Russia's last hold on the Middle East was through Syria, and with the change in the Assad regime, it is no longer so. So, but they have a town there, I'm forgetting the name of which, where Russian military is still established, and that has not been taken over by the al-Sharia regime. There have been no notable departure of these Russian soldiers, military equipment from that particular port. And so what I do understand is that the people are hedging their bets, waiting and watching, seeing how far this cooperation goes. Pakistan is doing what Pakistan does best, finding allies to ensure that its echo chambers are full of noise that support its stance, and Syria is now doing what it does best. In fact, a few hours ago, I believe there's the news that Latakia, which is a Alawite majority town, and the Syrian forces have declared had to fire on the people protesting against al-Sharia and his regime. So this is something that is going to happen, where you put dictators, specifically Islamic jihadists, known wanted criminals on the throne of a nation, and then they start massacring people, as it's happening in both these nations that are looking forward to a future of cooperation.
And you know, as you all mentioned that US, Russia and China is not raising eyebrows towards this cooperation, to what extent could this enhance Syria and Pakistani military collaboration contribute to or stability, or conversely raise concerns among neighboring states of them?
Well, for us, of course, for India, we're also waiting and watching. We're seeing what they're up to. We're preparing for the worst. For Syria, it seems good news for them to have cooperation with Pakistan, because then they provide buffer zone of military mercenaries in Syria against Iran and its proxies, which is what USA's primary aim is right now in the Middle East, to control Iran and its influence zone. Pakistan's already making deals with Saudi Arabia, which we've spoken about. They're fighting the Houthis on behalf of Saudi. They are now ready to fight the Daesh on behalf of Syria, it seems like. And they're also going to be part of the peacekeeping force in Israel. That means that they're going to be fighting Hamas and Islamic Jihad and all the other groups that are trying to create trouble in Gaza in the name of if the peace accord actually goes through in that region. So Pakistan is now looking to be the protector of peace in the Middle East. Its Islamic identity helps him be more palatable to the Arabic nations. But it works under US command, and it is not really sponsoring the Islamic ideology forward, if you look in terms of as base of the book. So for me, it is funny that the nation that wants to be the champion of Islam faces a lot of protest on home ground, because it is working against the people that the Islamists and jihadists actually call heroes. So the army is on sale, and Syria is just trying to buy its particular share.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Shruti Dasgupta for always joining us and sharing that insight as an international affairs expert from New Delhi. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Oceania. The bodies of 2 climbers, including one from the United States, have been recovered after the pair fell into their deaths from New Zealand's highest mountain during a summit attempt. The men were part of a group of 4, 2 New Zealand-based guides and 2 clients climbing Mount Cook or Aoraki. They fell from a ridge onto the west side of the mountain late on Monday. Police were notified at around 11:20 p.m. local time, and a search and rescue team were located. 2 members of the group uninjured in the early hours of Tuesday. Helicopters continued to search through the night and located the bodies of the 2 remaining missing climbers and recovered their bodies around midday. Over the past century, dozens of climbers have died on this mountain, where rock falls are common and avalanches often occur at the higher altitudes. Let's listen into what search and rescue pilot has shared.
We got to the location. We quite quickly found 2 deceased in a runnel or snow slot, if you like, not a crevasse, just a runnel of snow. The fall was witnessed by 2 of the 4 climbers. One climber was seen sliding off the ridge down the western side of Araki, and then pulled the second climber, who was attached by a rope, off that same site, and they both slipped in.
And that's a wrap on Gulf Today. Keep watching NewsX World for more